Hello my listener, my name is Ambrose. Today we are going to continue our series of lecture in computer, and in our previous lecture we talk about function of monitor, and we define monitor, and also talk about mouse, which is this very one, and also talk about the functions of mouse. Today we are going to continue by which is this keyboard. I'm going to explain what I mean by keyboard, how to use keyboard, functions of keyboard in computer, and the types of keyboard. Okay, this is my content for today, for what we are going to lecture, which is what is keyboard and types of keyboard. How should we place our hand in keyboard. Okay, and we're also going to talk about how should finger be placed when typing in keyboard, and we're also going to talk about how to distribute your finger or spread your finger in keyboard, or which key that's supposed to be used on the left hand side or the right hand side. Then we are still going to talk about home key versus main home key. Then after then we're going to talk about total key in keyboard. Okay, so let's get started. But before then, we need to understand some certain things about this keyboard that we want to explain. This is a keyboard that I'm going to explain. We have different type of keyboard. We have game keyboard, but I'm not going to talk about those keyboard today. This is a keyboard we are going to discuss today. This is a keyboard. Then we have other type of keyboard. Like there are different types of keyboard. We have multimedia keyboard, we have wireless keyboard, and others. So but the one I want to talk about today is wireless keyboard or USB keyboard. The reason why I want to talk about this wireless keyboard or USB keyboard is because of the nature of this program I want to lecture. That is Introduction to Computer Set. And I told you that we have done with this monitor and also mouse. So today we are going to talk about this keyboard. So we are not going to involve ourselves like game keyboard or visual keyboard. So we have different types of keyboard. So this is the one I'm going to concentrate on, which is wireless keyboard or USB keyboard. What make it wireless or USB? The fact is that if you want to purchase a keyboard, if you order a keyboard from online, we have most of the common keyboard that we use in our computer system is either wireless or USB. The wireless keyboard uses sensor to communicate with the CPU. That means it comes with a USB that we attach to our CPU that will enable the keyboard to communicate with the CPU. Then while USB normally come with a USB, just like the one we explained in mouse. So it comes in a USB form that you connect from this let's assume this is where the USB is, so you can connect it from here to the back of the CPU. Alright, so but whichever one that you purchase from market, or whichever one that you purchase from any of the wholesale shop, okay, depends on how they works. But whether wireless or USB, they all carry out the same functions. The slight difference is that the one does not comes with wire, while one comes with wire. Even the one that does not comes with wire, sometimes it uses, which means the wireless, sometimes it uses battery to functions. Okay, so alright, then we now have types of keyboard, like as I said, but we have multimedia keyboard and others, and visual keyboard, and many of them. But the one I want to concentrate is wireless keyboard and USB keyboard, because those are the most common keyboard that we see around us while we are operating our computer. Okay, so let's get started. This is our keyboard. This one is desktop keyboard. What do I mean by desktop keyboard? That is the slight difference between the laptop own and desktop keyboard is that this very desktop keyboard, all the functions are complete. It's only some few functions that can be found in laptop that is not here. Okay, so that is why I decided to use desktop keyboard to explain. Okay, now because if you want to use something like laptop keyboard to, if I should use laptop keyboard to explain it, so laptop keyboard does not come with these number keys that we are having here. So that's why I decided to use desktop keyboard to explain it. So I am going to start with function key. The whole of all this side is called function, and we have typing key, that is A to Z are referred as typing key, or you can also call it alphabetical key. Then we also have some other control keys that we are going to explain in this very lecture. So let me start from function key. This is the function keys. Before then, let us see what keyboard, the definition of keyboard in our computer system. Let's go to this point where we define the keyboard. Okay, now the keyboard, I wrote here, a computer keyboard is an input device used to enter characters or functions into the computer system by pressing any of these buttons. So a computer keyboard is an input device. In case you don't understand the word input device, I make a video on input and output device in this very channel. Okay, so you can go to this place and watch any of this video on input, or copy and paste. You can go ahead and watch for them in order for you to get more understanding. Alright, now we have under this place, which is this definition, input. So you can come to this place and watch it. So input is the keyboard is recognized as an input device that help us to communicate with our CPU. That is, in order for we to communicate with this CPU, we need the help of keyboard. In order for we to input some function, or in order for we to input some digit into the computer system, that is where this keyboard we want to talk about comes in. Okay, now Another definition I still want to give you again is a computer keyboard. Computer keyboard is an input. It's an input device that is used to communicate with our CPU. Input. So the computer keyboard is an input device that helps us to communicate with our CPU, or that is used to communicate with our CPU, or that grants individual access to communicate with our CPU. So in order for we to input some function or input some digit into the computer system, we need the help of keyboard. You can so use your keyboard to input something into the computer system, some function or characters, but this one is the best way to input characters and other functions into the computer system. So that is why we say computer keyboard is an input device that is used to enter character or to input character and functions into the computer system by pressing each of those buttons. And I told you that A to Z is called alphabetical key. So A to Z is called alphabetical key, or some people call it typing key. Some people refer it as typing keys. Okay. Then we have function keys and control keys. So let's bring our diagram in order for us to get it properly. Like as I said earlier, A to Z, all this A to Z, we call it alphabetical key, or you can refer it as typing key. Then all these are called number keys, from 1 to 0. That is, for instance, I want to type, I'm using my own currently now, I want to type maybe 1 or 0, or maybe you want to input 1 million. Okay, depends on the digit or the button to press. So what I mean is that all this one we call them number keys. So let's type it. We call them number key. Remember I told you that A to Z is called number keys. A to Z is called alphabetical key or typing keys. Why number keys from 0 or 1 and to 9 are called number keys. Okay, all these ones are also called number keys. All these key that we have here, we also refer them as number key, but basically it was arranged in a form of calculator format. So whichever one that you desire to use depends on the one to use. But like me personally, if I'm dealing with calculation, or I am dealing with any work that involve calculation or adding figures, maybe I purchase some items, I prefer using this one because of the arrangement. But if you still want to use this one, all depends on you. But the same function that this one does, the same function that this one also do. Okay, so this one is also called number keys, and this one is also called number keys. So the enter is here. Alright, then we have another one we call function key. So I want to explain what I mean by function key. Now we have F1 to F12, F1 to F12. The F1 to F12, each of the F represent function according to the command issued in them on the application you are currently accessing or using. Let me break it down in another language. All computer keyboard, or most of the computer keyboard that you are using, normally comes up, or it was designed by the manufacturer in all these F1, F2, F3 and others. That's to say, depends on the keyboard you are using. I'm trying to break it down. Depends on the keyboard you are using. Each of the F has their own function, their stance. That is, each of the F has their own responsibility they carry out. Depends on the program or the application you are accessing that moment. For instance, I am accessing CorelDRAW or MS Word. The responsibility of F2 in MS Word may be different from CorelDRAW. The responsibility of F3 may be different from other programs or other accounting programs. So depends on how the application was designed in original form, determine what this button, the action they carry out. Now, if I should explain to you now that this F2 represent, maybe I press alternate or control or shift plus F2, maybe to change to KC in Microsoft Word. That command I just told you may be different from other thing when we enter another program. So now what we are saying is that just have it in mind that each of all these functions, each of them has their own responsibility, depends on the particular program you are accessing, determine the command or determine the command to be issued according to the people that design the program. The people that design the program, the shortcut of how to use the program determine whether to use F5 or whether to use F4. But I want you to have it in mind that each of all these keys represent functions. They have their own function, they have their own responsibility they carry out, they have their own action they carry out in their respective application that you are currently accessing that moment. But there is one of the key that is often used that it carry out almost the same function, depends on the programs, especially like F1. F1 in most of all the application I've come across, in most of all the application that I've come across, F1, which is this very one, anytime you press it in your computer, maybe when you are currently running any application, anytime you press it, it represents help menu. It represents help menu. It represents help menu. That is a kind of help or documented manuscript about that particular applications. So anytime you press the F1, a pop-up menu will appear before you showing you some function and some other tools that can assist you or guide you while you are using that particular programs. So the F1 represents help menu that assist all users. For instance, you press F1 in that particular program you are currently using, it means it represents help menu. It may help you to guide you, or there are some formula or there are some certain things you may not be able to understand. The F1 will help you, and there is a search in that place where you can just press and search for the particular thing that you thought you are finding difficult in that program, and the F1 you can be able to get some basic solution. So the F1, sometimes you may know the F1, you may have some limit of assistance. So in order for you to get a full assistance on the question or you want to, or what you are trying to find, you need internet connection. So if it happen to be so, you just have to know that you need to connect online in order for you to get full help menu. But what I'm trying to explain is that this F1, which is this very one, represents help menu in most of the program I've come across with. So the help menu helps individual who is using that particular application to look for a particular problem you are looking for. And I also say the F1 represent a kind of manuscript or manual that was documented on how that particular program you are using should be used. It will guide you on how to use it. So that's what this F1 actually represent in most of our computer system. Alright, then we have another one again called controls. I'm going to explain to you why we have control here and we have control here. But most of the laptop, like as I said earlier, you may decide not to have control here and control here. The control can just be only one, and the control can just sometimes can be here and it may not be here. Okay, so window can also be here and it may not be here. So I believe we understand on what I mean by this A to Z, which means A to Z represent alphabetical key, or people also refer it as typing keys, while the 0, 1 to 9 are called number keys. I also told you that the numbers key can be in two sides, depends on the keyboard you are using. On this very side, which is this very side where my mouse pointer is currently now, is also referred as the number key, and this side can also be referred also the number key. Okay, so we are going to take some of those functions. I'm going to explain some of these functions step by step. I am going to start from caps lock. Since we have already explained what I mean by function key, so let us start explaining them one after the other. But before I will explain it, each of the keys, please take note, each of the key has their own responsibility. They have their own function in the particular program you are currently using. Even if I said caps lock is a key that is used to swap to either small letter or capital letter, does not mean that that is the only function of this caps lock. Let us see what I mean by that. Let us take this caps lock key. Caps lock key is one of the key key button that is used on a key button that allows user to swap to either capital letter, capital or small letter during typing. Okay, now you get it. Now let's put number 1 here. Now, like what I said, caps lock key or caps lock button is one of the key buttons that allows user, whichever they're using it, to swap to either capital letter or small letter during typing. Now, what I'm trying to explain is this, that even though I said that this caps lock key is a key that is used to swap to either capital letter or small letter during typing, does not mean that is the only function that it does when you are operating computer. So let's make it etc. So that is not the only function of this caps lock, but for those who are new to keyboard, this is the only way I can be able to explain it to you in order for you to understand. But that is not the only function of this caps lock. Just like you have spoon at your kitchen, or just like you have maybe knife in your kitchen, knife that you are using to slice objects or to slice leaf, does not mean that you cannot also use the knife for other alternative. Alright, so what I'm trying to explain is that this caps lock key can also be used for other functions by combining them with other functions. But basically, because in order for you not to confuse as a beginner, the caps lock key is used to swap to either capital letter or small letter during typing. In order for you to get this right, or in order for you to understand what I'm trying to explain, let us go back to this place. Anytime you press this very light, there are 3 lights that normally comes up when you are operating in your computer, especially when you are using keyboard. Okay, there are 3 lights that normally comes up. Let me change this very let me change the color. Okay, change the color to other thing. Okay, let me use this color. Now if I press this button, which is caps lock, anytime I press the caps lock, automatically the center button, which is this very one, the light will comes up. There are 3 lights, some 3 basic lights that normally appears when you are using desktop keyboard. One, we have what to call number lock key. Sorry, let me type it here. Number light key, number light key. Then we have caps lock, caps lock light key, and screw that is screw. Let me show you this one that's here. Okay, screw button, light. So these are some of this is the most common light that you come in contact while you are using your keyboard. One, the number light key, and which is this very one, caps lock light, and screw light. Like as I said, each time you press this button, this light in your keyboard, if you are using your desktop, keyboard, but if you are not using desktop keyboard, if you are using laptop, sometimes it may not be here. Sometimes they may attach it to your keyboard. Yeah, the light may indicate here, or sometimes you may not even see the light. Depends on the manufacturer. They may decide not to include the light. So if they do not include the light and the thing function, don't bother about that. I'm just trying to explain it for the purpose of this video. Alright, so once I press this button, which is caps lock button, a light will appear here at the center. Sometimes you may not see this A or 1 or this very arrow we are seeing here. Okay, so when you press this button, once you press this button, automatically our light should be able to indicate here. And once our light indicate, it simply means that all the alphabet you want to type, all the alphabet that we have here is going to come up in capital letter. And once the light off, just as presently now, you can see it now, it's not on. So anytime the light, this center one off, it means that whatever you want to type will be small letter throughout. So what I'm trying to explain is that the caps lock is used to swap to either small letter or capital letter while you are typing. For instance, you are a secretary in any government parastatal or private parastatal. You were employed maybe for document purpose or maybe data entry, and you want to type a job, and the job, the subheading started with capital letter and underline. Let's assume it started with capital letter. All you need to do is to press this very button. Once you press this very button, automatically the light will appear here. But like as I told you, if the light did not appear, don't bother yourself. Automatically you now come, and all the information that you want to type, or all the text you want to type at that moment will be capital letter. For instance, thank God for today. Okay, now if I want to press it now. If I press the caps lock, automatically if I type now, everything will be small letter. Thank God for today. You see now. So that is one of the major function of this caps lock. But that is not only the agenda of this caps lock. Depends on the program you are in that moment, or depends on the program you are operating. Okay, so I'm going to continue from this very place now. I'm going to define all these key and their function in our next video. Okay, just be with us. Thank you very much for your time that you spent. God bless you. Bye for now.